Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be driving this brand new G80 M3 with xDrive. So as you know, our current G80 M3 is a rear-wheel drive version, and we do have an all-wheel drive M4 on order, but that's been a bit delayed because of all the things that are going around at the moment with the chip shortages, and because we ordered an individual color. There's no press cars of the xDrive, and dealers have a very sparse supply of demo cars. So this one has been supplied by our friend Shazad, so we can actually take a drive of it and see what it's like. Visually, it looks exactly the same. The only difference is the drivetrain. So I'm really curious to see how it drives. Let's jump in the car and find out. So let's see what this is like to drive. It has been a little bit damp this morning, which is going to help with the driving impressions, because I was a bit concerned for once that it was a bit too dry. But I've been driving the car this morning, and I can confirm that it feels just as lively as the rear wheel drive in terms of the steering inputs. You can't automatically feel that this is an all-wheel drive car. And if you go back to my review on the G80, I was actually quite surprised that it was fully rear-wheel drive. The amount of traction the car had was quite surprising, and obviously this is no different. So initial impressions are, it does feel as exciting as the two-wheel drive version, but where I'm really feeling the difference from my drive this morning is in the corners when they're slightly damp, where I feel the rear-wheel drive car would be squirming a little bit. This doesn't have any of that. You can just almost feel the power pulling you through the front wheels. On a road like this where it's a bit damp, you put your foot down, it just inspires that little bit more confidence in a rear-wheel drive car, which is kind of what I was expecting. It does drive a lot like our F90 M5. So when we made the transition from the F10 to the F90, a lot of people were saying it'd be dull because it's four-wheel drive, but honestly, because these cars are rear-wheel biased, they still do feel very much BMW. Yeah, just on these corners here where it's slightly damp, I probably wouldn't be pushing that hard, but with this, it does give you that extra confidence. Driving around normally, you can't tell. I was honestly concerned about what the steering feel would be like, but it's still very sharp. It'd be interesting to see what they've done with the geometry on this car, because on the G80 they have factored in a lot of the suspension settings to give the car a lot of traction. We've had a good few months to get used to the rear-wheel drive model, and it's just as good as it was when I first picked it up and gave my driving impressions. The car is very well balanced and has a surprising amount of grip for a rear-wheel drive car, and the four-wheel drive just adds that little bit of surety on roads like this, especially like today when it's slightly damp. And it's still got all of the excitement. The only thing I can think with a rear-wheel drive car is it feels maybe a little bit more on edge when you really push it hard, and you can drive the car in MDM mode in rear-wheel drive car. This car, because the four-wheel drive system is like the F90, when you switch it to full rear-wheel drive, the traction has to be fully off, and then the only way you can manage that traction is by using the M traction mode, where it's got the 10 variable settings for the amount of interference that traction control will give you. But to be honest, this car is as I was expecting it to be. It does beg the question why you would want a fully rear-wheel drive car, but I think if you're really used to rear-wheel drive and you still want to have that level of excitement right on the edge, maybe that's a reason. But I think for most people, the price difference is not enough not to go for this version. We will provide more performance metrics once we get our own car or hold of a press car, but I managed to get some timings on this car in non-ideal conditions. So I would say it's not completely dry. The car does have 3/4 of a tank of fuel in it, and I managed to do 0 to 60 in 3.24 seconds, and a quarter mile of 11.43 seconds at 121 miles an hour. So that's not far off what a stock F90 M5 does, which is very fast, but this being four-wheel drive will have consistency over the rear-wheel drive G80 model when it comes to those kind of performance metrics. So I think this car will perform more consistently than the rear-wheel drive, and it hasn't really lost that much in terms of driving experience. I don't know what it would be like on the track when you're able to push really hard. On the road you can't really push the car to its limits, but in the main, with the price difference, I think it's actually going to be a better car for most of the people. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on. If you want to join the conversation, please drop us a comment below and we will do our best to respond to you. And if you're running out of things to watch, why don't you watch one of these two?